what does make it still work here in Macon County are the quality of people that we do have in the classrooms, and I'm very proud and pleased to introduce to you the Macon County Teacher of the Year, first grade teacher at South Macon, Melissa Faetz.
Cheering squad back there, paid them all. I was listening earlier and it was so hard to listen because we were talking about the North Carolina Teaching Fellows program. I'm North Carolina Teaching Fellow. Ouch, that's gone. Graduate degree's cut. I just got my graduate degree. That's gone. I'm a first grade teacher who's always had an assistant. I now share my assistant for over 2 hours a day. That's gone. So this is the state that we're in. Is it working now? Sorry. This is where we are. The past 5 to 6 years, we've been working with the less is more. The economy was bad. All of public schools are going less is more. But this year, I think we can officially say less is simply less. We just don't have what we need. So I'm here to just kind of share a little bit of my story, what my classroom is like right now. We've been hit hard. You know, you talk about the textbooks. I don't have textbooks in my classroom. We have some old reading books that we're able to use, but our math books were consumables and we don't have them. They couldn't purchase them this year. So my students don't have practice textbooks. Now, the copies, yes, we'd love to make copies of all of these materials. But our copy count has been cut so drastically that we can basically use 1 page per student per day. Now, I won't name them, some of them might or might not be here, but I've seen my colleagues making handwritten copies for 21 students in their classroom of the same thing, just so they could have that for their students to work with. That's where we're at. So we think about this, and all of these cuts, all of these things that have been hard in these materials, none of them come to what has been the cut in our teacher assistants. As I said earlier, personnel is everything. That student to teacher ratio is everything. I think often there's a misunderstanding about what a teacher assistant is. They're not there to simply make copies. They're not there to walk our students up and down the hallways. That's not what they're there for. They do so much more. A quick example is in my classroom, I can teach a math lesson. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. The first one is you walk in my classroom to observe my class during a math lesson, studying basic addition. You can see 3 groups working. I'm working with a large group over here. We're working on our basic addition skills. We're doing practice activities. We've got math manipulatives out. We're working through these. You see my teacher assistant over in the corner who's trying to work with those students that are not ready yet. They need to work on their basic number sense. They just aren't there. But with the support of a teacher assistant, I can do that. I can have a third group in another corner who is getting challenge activities. They're working on problem solving, they're working independently. Sounds pretty good. Scenario number 2, you walk in my classroom, you observe my class doing the same thing, basic addition. It is me standing in front of an entire group of 20 to 25 first graders, who by the way have an attention span of 5 to 6 minutes. And I have to teach one size fits all. Our students are not robots. We're not working in a factory. My students are not one size fits all. I've got students with various disabilities. I've got students who need to be challenged. I have students on every level of the spectrum. Behavior problems, home life issues. It just doesn't work like that. So a teacher assistant makes all the difference in the world. And like I said, we've got a higher accountability to our students, and we've got teachers have a higher accountability for their classrooms. And right now, when all of these changes are happening, we have to sit there and wonder why we're not putting all of our funding and all of our efforts where it's needed most. So I've been teaching 10 years. I've had 9 years in first grade. And a lot of people always ask me, why first grade? Well, we know from research that in kindergarten, 2nd grade, we teach students how to read. By the time they hit 3rd grade, they need to be able to read to learn. So by the time they're in 3rd grade, if they can't read, there's a huge disparity. That gap gets huge. In 1st grade, I can close that achievement gap before it begins. That's why I choose where I am. I get to give my students a solid foundation. And that means the world to me. So if we know that the primary grades are so vital and that teacher assistants are so important to our classroom, we again have to stop and ask ourselves, why are we not focusing on this? Why are we cutting where we should be investing? And that is where we're at right now. So finally, I'm just gonna end, and I hope you'll forgive me for doing this, but hopefully some of our media organizations will help to spread this invitation. But I have to feel that if you are a politician in our area who's here to represent us, that the only way they could have voted for this budget, was that they simply were not informed, that they simply just didn't know better. So, knowing this, I'm going to send out an open invitation. Our local representatives, we've got Representative West, we have Senator Davis. I invite either one of them to come spend a day in my classroom. But here's the key, you are not coming to observe me. If they choose to accept this invitation, they must come be a participant. Because I don't have time for somebody to sit and watch. I need them actively involved. So a couple key things. Number one, if they come, they should probably limit their coffee intake in the morning. My students walk through the door at 7:30 a.m. They don't go to PE till 1:30. So bathroom breaks are limited. We do have a lunch break, 30 minutes with our students. By the time you get them through the line, make sure your meal's not too fancy because we have about 10 minutes to eat. Okay, I don't have lunch on my own. I don't get to go out to eat. None of our teachers here do. They know exactly what I'm talking about. Any personal phone calls to the doctor's offices, things like that, need to make sure those things are done after school time. We can't have our cell phones with us and step out of the classroom of 20 students and say, oh, excuse me, I've got to go make a phone call. That's not possible for us. So those are just a couple things. And when my students leave at 3:30 in the afternoon, my day is not done. So I would ask that if they choose to accept this invitation, that they would stay with me until all of my papers are graded, my room is cleaned back up, my planning is done, my paperwork is done, and all of my parent meetings are done. These are all part of our careers. So I'm going to end. Thank you so much for giving me your time. The one thing I will hopefully like to remind you all is, as teachers, those of you who are here and are teachers, those of you who are here and are parents and are concerned and unhappy with the state of education right now, you can go ahead and get out your calendar books right now. November 4th, 2014, we get to vote again.